She wasn't trying to get my attention. That was the thing that got me. Every other person in Apex Fitness on South Congress that Tuesday morning was performing in some way, checking mirrors, adjusting form when someone walked past, that quiet theater of people who want to be seen working hard. She wasn't doing any of that. She was at the cable machine in the corner, dark hair pulled back, golden skin catching the gym light, completely locked into her own world like the rest of us simply didn't exist. I loaded the bar on the opposite side of the gym and told myself to mind my own business. I did not mind my own business. I kept finding excuses to glance across the floor, adjusting my grip, checking my phone, looking at the clock on the wall that happened to be in her general direction. All the small, dishonest things a person does when they are trying to look like they are not looking. She never once looked back, which somehow made it worse. I left that morning without knowing her name, without saying a word to her, having done absolutely nothing except lose focus on every single set after the first one. I was back Thursday at 5:45. I told myself it was because Thursday was leg day. It was not because of leg day.
Her name was Isabella. I found that out not because I asked. I wasn't going to ask. I had made a specific internal agreement with myself about not asking, but because the girl at the front desk called it across the gym when Isabella left her water bottle at the counter. She turned back, smiled, picked it up, and then, for no reason I could explain, she looked at me, just for a second, direct and unhurried, the kind of look that takes 1 second and costs you the rest of your morning. I put the bar back on the rack. Lucas, I told myself, she is a woman at your gym. You know nothing about her. Do not do anything embarrassing. I moved to the cable machine next to hers, the one I never used because the left cable always stuck, and started a set I had absolutely no business doing at that weight. She said nothing for 4 minutes. Then, without looking at me, "The left cable sticks. Pull the pin all the way out before you reset." I looked at the cable, looked at her. "I know," I said. She turned those amber eyes on me then, something in them that might have been amusement. "Sure," she said. She went back to her set. I reset the cable exactly the way she told me, and spent the next 20 minutes being aggressively focused on my form and absolutely nothing else. She left at 6:55 without another word. I was there Thursday.
The coffee place next to Apex was called Seventh Flag. Small, warm, always crowded after the morning rush. I was in line when she walked in behind me, still in her gym clothes, dark hair loose now from where the bun had started giving up, olive jacket over a workout set. She didn't see me immediately. "The cold brew takes 8 minutes," I said, without turning around, "if you're thinking about it." A pause. "I wasn't," she said, "but now I am." I turned. She was closer than I expected. Those amber eyes looking up at me with something I couldn't quite read. "Lucas," I said, extending my hand. "I know," she said. "You know my name?" "Front desk calls it when your session's about to expire." A small tilt of her head. 48 hours left on your current month, by the way." I stared at her. "Isabella," she said, taking my hand. "I know," I said. She smiled. A real one. The first real one. And it hit differently than I was prepared for. We got coffee. We sat at the window for 40 minutes that became an hour. She was a physical therapist at a sports clinic on 6th Street. 18 months in Austin. Ran half marathons and hated mornings, and came to the gym at 6 a.m. anyway because the evenings were harder to fill. I told her I was in architecture. 2 years in Austin from Denver, also hated mornings. "Then why 6 a.m.?" she said. "Same reason as you probably," I said. She looked at me over her cup. "The evenings are harder," she said quietly. "Yeah," I said. We looked at each other across that small table, and I knew, clearly and with zero idea what to do about it, that I was going to see her Thursday, and it wasn't going to be about the gym. We had coffee 4 more times before February arrived. Never called dates, just the gym ending and the coffee place next door and conversations that kept going longer than they had any reason to. She talked about her patience with her hands moving and her eyes lit, and I watched her talk and thought about how rarely I had met someone who was genuinely passionate about what they did and didn't need anyone to know it. February, a Tuesday morning, same window table. She was telling me about a patient whose recovery had gone better than anyone expected, animated and proud, and I was watching the way she described it, the precision of her, the care. And Marcus was skeptical about the timeline, but I pushed for it, and it worked. "Who's Marcus?" I said. A beat too long. Something shifted in her expression, the animation pulling back like a light dimming 1 degree. "My husband," she said. The coffee shop kept being a coffee shop around us. The machine made noise, someone laughed at another table. "I didn't know you were married," I said. "You didn't ask," she said, even watching me carefully now. "No," I said, "I didn't." She looked at her cup. I looked at mine. "Does it change things?" she said, quietly, not looking up. I thought about an hour that kept becoming longer, about cable machines and a real smile and evenings that were harder to fill. "I don't know yet," I said honestly. She looked up. And the fact that I hadn't immediately said no, of course not, the fact that I had said "I don't know" yet out loud to a married woman in a coffee shop on a Tuesday morning sat between us like something that had been placed there carefully and was not going to be easy to move. I stopped going to Apex on Tuesdays. Not a dramatic decision, just a quiet, practical one. I switched to evenings and told myself the morning crowds were getting worse, and almost believed it. She texted on a Thursday. We had exchanged numbers at some point. Practically, she'd said, in case either of us needed to cancel. And the text said simply, "You weren't there Tuesday." I stared at it for a long time. "Schedule change," I typed back. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Then, "Okay." One word. And somehow that one word, not fine, not no problem, just okay in the voice of someone who understood exactly what the schedule change meant and was letting me have it, made me feel worse than if she had argued. I went back Tuesday. I told myself it was because the evening crowds really were worse. We both knew it wasn't that. She was already at the cable machine when I walked in. She looked up when she heard my bag hit the floor. Neither of us said anything about Tuesday. Neither of us said anything about the text. We just started working, fell into the comfortable parallel rhythm we had developed over weeks, and pretended that nothing had shifted. Except everything had shifted. Because now I knew, and she knew I knew. And we were both in the gym at 6 in the morning, choosing to be here anyway. At the water fountain, she stopped beside me. "I'm not going anywhere," she said quietly, not looking at me, filling her bottle. "Isabella, I'm not asking you for anything," she said, still not looking. "I just thought you should know that what this is, whatever this is, it isn't nothing to me." She capped her bottle. "That's all." She walked back to the floor. I stood at the water fountain for approximately 30 seconds. Then I went back to work and spent the rest of the session being the most disciplined I had been in weeks and the most distracted I had ever been in my life. March arrived, and we found a rhythm that had no name. Tuesdays and Thursdays at the gym, coffee after, most weeks. Texts that were never about anything important and always went longer than they needed to. One Saturday, she mentioned she was running the trail at Barton Creek, and I said I might do the same, and we ran 6 miles together, without calling it anything. She talked about Marcus occasionally, not complaining, not confiding, just the natural way a person's life comes up in conversation. He traveled for work, a lot. He was gone 3 weeks out of 4. She had built a life in Austin that was essentially her own life, and he dropped in and out of it, and she had made her peace with that, or she was making her peace with it, or she was somewhere in between. I listened and didn't ask the questions I wanted to ask. One evening, she called me, not a text, a call, at 9:30 on a Wednesday. "I'm sorry to call," she said. "Don't apologize," I said. A pause. "He's home this week, and I don't know why, but it's harder when he's home than when he's gone. Does that make sense?" "Yes," I said. It made complete sense. I just... She stopped. "That what?" I said. A long pause. "That knows me," she said quietly. I sat with that for a moment. "I'm here," I said. She exhaled slowly. We talked for an hour and a half about nothing important. Her patience, a building I was designing, a trail she wanted to run. The conversation of two people who have found something rare and are very carefully not naming it. When she said goodnight, her voice was steadier than it had been at 9:30. I put the phone down and sat in my apartment, and thought about a woman who had built a life alone in a city, and called me when she needed a voice that knew her. And I thought about what that meant, and what I was going to do about it. She came to my apartment on a Friday evening in late March. Not planned, or half-planned, the way things happen when you've been circling something for weeks and one day you simply stop circling. She had finished a late shift at the clinic. She was near my neighborhood. She texted, "Are you home?" I said yes. She arrived 20 minutes later in her work clothes, dark fitted trousers, a cream blouse, hair down now, the particular exhaustion and ease of someone at the end of a long week. She stood in my doorway and looked at me, and I stepped back to let her in. She walked into my kitchen and put her bag on the counter and said, "Do you have wine?" And I said yes. And she sat at my kitchen island while I opened it. And something about the simple domesticity of that, her in my kitchen, her bag on my counter, her sitting there like she knew where things were, hit me somewhere I wasn't prepared for. We sat at the island with wine and talked until 11. At some point, the wine was finished, and the conversation had slowed into the comfortable quiet of late evenings, and she was looking at me across the island with those amber eyes that had stopped performing anything at all tonight. "Lucas," she said. "I know," I said. "No." She shook her head slightly. "I don't think you do." She stood up, came around the island, stopped in front of me, close. "I have thought about this very carefully," she said quietly, "for 3 months, and I know what it costs. I know exactly what it costs," her eyes holding mine, "and I'm telling you anyway." My heart was doing something that had no interest in being reasonable. "Tell me," I said. She reached up and put both hands on either side of my face, warm, deliberate, completely certain, and looked at me from inches away. "I fell for you at the cable machine," she said. "That first Tuesday, when you moved to the machine you never use and pretended you knew about the cable." I laughed, short and real and slightly undone. "I did know about the cable," I said. "You did not know about the cable," she said. And then she kissed me. Right there in my kitchen, with the empty wine glasses between us, and Austin quiet outside, and 3 months of careful circling, finally, completely done.
The morning after was a Saturday. She was in my kitchen when I came out. She had found the mugs without asking, the coffee without being told where it was, moving through my space with the ease of someone who had been paying attention to small details for a long time. She looked up when I appeared. "You keep your coffee in the second cabinet," she said, "not the first one where most people keep it." "I know where I keep my coffee," I said. "I'm just saying I noticed," she said. I crossed the kitchen and stood beside her at the counter. Close. She handed me a mug, and our fingers touched, and neither of us moved away. "Isabella," I said. "Don't," she said, quietly. "Don't do the responsible thing this morning. We have all day to do the responsible thing." I looked at her. "Marcus comes back Monday," she said. Simply, honestly, no performance. "And I have things to figure out. Real things. And I'm going to figure them out." She looked at me steadily. "But this morning, I just want to drink coffee in your kitchen." I put my arm around her, she leaned into it. We stood at the window with our coffee, and Austin below, and everything complicated waiting patiently outside. And for that one Saturday morning, neither of us let it in. She told Marcus she wanted a separation on April 3rd. She called me that evening. Her voice was steady, the way it got when she had made a decision and was done going back and forth on it. "How are you?" I said. "Relieved," she said. And then, "Is that terrible?" "No," I said. "He wasn't surprised," she said. "That was the part that got me. He wasn't surprised at all. He just nodded, like he had been waiting for it too." A pause. 7 years, and he just nodded. I didn't say anything. Sometimes the right thing is to just stay on the line. "I'm not doing this because of you," she said after a moment. "I need you to know that. This has been coming for a long time. You just made it harder to pretend," I said. "Yes," she said. "Exactly that." We stayed on the phone for a long time that night, not talking about us, not making plans, not rushing toward anything. Just her voice and mine, and the knowledge that the complicated part was here now, and we were both going to have to live in it for a while before anything got simple. That was okay. Some things are worth the complicated. I had known that since January, since a cable machine I never used and a look that cost me the rest of my morning. It is April now. She has an apartment 4 blocks from mine. Temporary, she says, while things settle. And she runs Barton Creek on Saturday mornings, and I run with her most weeks, and we don't call it anything, because it doesn't need a name anymore. We go to 7th Flag after. Same window table. Cold brew that takes 8 minutes. Last Saturday, she was telling me about a patient, and her hands were moving the way they did, and her amber eyes were lit the way they got, and I was watching her talk and thinking, this exact thing. Not the dramatic moments or the charged silences or the Tuesday mornings I drove to a gym on South Congress telling myself it was about leg day. This. Just her, talking about something she cared about at a window table in the morning. I reached across and covered her hand with mine. She stopped mid-sentence, looked at me. "What?" she said. "Nothing," I said. "Keep going." She looked at me for a moment with those amber eyes. Then she smiled. The real one. The one from January 23rd that started all of this, and kept going. And I held her hand on the table in the April morning light and thought, some things you don't plan. Some things find you at a cable machine at 6 in the morning when you are minding your own business and doing leg day and not looking for anything at all. And then they change everything. And you are grateful every day that you are bad at minding your own business.